Have a grateful day to my kind, understanding, and humble instructor, Mamel. Ma'am, it's me again, Josephine Papa, and for this video oral presentation, I am going to answer of the following questions on this performance task and lesson 6. Questions number 1. Based on the discussion, what is the difference between light-dependent and light-independent reactions? In the light-dependent reactions, energy from sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll and that energy is converted into stored chemical energy. In the light-independent reactions, the chemical energy harvested during the light-dependent reactions drives the assembly of sugar molecules from carbon dioxide. On the other hand, light-dependent reactions, just as the name implies, light-dependent reactions require sunlight. And the light-dependent reactions, energy from sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll and converted into stored chemical energy in the form of the electron carrier molecule in ADPH or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate and the energy currency molecules ATP or adenosine triphosphate. The light-dependent reactions take place in the thylakoid membranes and the granum or stack of thylakoids within the chloroplast. The two stages of photosynthesis. The photosynthesis takes place in two stages, the light-dependent reactions and the Calvin cycle or light-independent reactions. The light-dependent reactions, which take place in the thylakoid membrane, use light energy to make ATP and NADPH. The Calvin cycle, which takes place in the stroma, uses energy derived from these compounds to make GA3P from CO2. And the light-independent reactions or Calvin cycle, the energized electrons from the light-dependent reactions provide the energy to form carbohydrates from carbon dioxide molecules. The light-independent reactions are sometimes called the Calvin cycle because of the cyclical nature of the process. Although the light-independent reactions do not use light as a reactant and as a result can take place at day or night. They require the products of the light-dependent reactions to function. The light-independent molecules depend on the energy carrier molecules, ATP and NADPH, to drive the constructions of new carbohydrates molecules. After the energy is transferred, the energy carrier molecules return to the light-dependent reactions to obtain more energized electrons. In addition, several enzymes of the light-independent reactions are activated by light. Questions number 2. How are the photons absorbed by utilized in the first stage of photosynthesis? A photon strikes photosystem 2 to initiate photosynthesis. The energy travels through the electron transport chain, which pumps hydrogen ions into the thylakoid space. This forms an electrochemical gradient. Photosynthesis takes place in two steps. The energy from the sun is absorbed by the chloroplast during the first stage. During this stage of the process, water is used and oxygen is produced. This is where carbon dioxide is converted into glucose, the second step in photosynthesis. Number 3, summarize the process of light reactions and Calvin cycle. The steps in light reactions are a series of redox reactions or reductions and oxidation reactions that occurs first in photosystem 2 and then in photosystem 1. If the photosystem seems like they are named backwards, it's because they were in order that they were discovered. Step 1. In photosystem 2, electrons or red circle flow beginning with a primary electrons acceptor through a series of compounds that are embedded in the thylakoid membrane, sort of like the electrons transport chain from cellular respiration. The movements of electrons is represented by the red arrows. And step 2, electrons will move through photosystem 1. Another electrons transport chain, but instead of producing ATP, photosystem 1 will result in the conversion of nicotinamide, adenine dinucleotide phosphate or NADP plus into NADPH. The Calvin cycle is anabolic, which means building of organic molecules from smaller components requiring energy to do so. Phase 1, carbon fixation occurs, which is catalyzed by an enzyme called Robescu. Robescu captures CO2 from the atmosphere and attaches it to a 5-carbon sugar called ribulose bisphosphate or RUBP. The resulting 6-carbon molecules is unstable and splits into 2 molecules of 3-photoglycerate. Phase 2, reduction H of 3-phosphoglycerate molecules receive a phosphate from ATP and is then reduced by NADPH. And after which it loses a phosphate to become glyceryl dehydrate 3-phosphate or G3P. Some of this G3P is the output of the Calvin cycle going onto other pathways that generate glucose and other organic compounds. The phase 3, regeneration of ribulose, some G3P goes back to generate more RUBP and start the cycle over again. Questions number 4. What are all the byproducts of light-dependent and light-independent reactions? The products of the light-dependent reactions, ATP and NADPH, have lifespans in the range of millions of seconds, whereas the products of the light-independent reactions, or carbohydrates and other forms of reduced carbon, can survive for hundreds of millions of years. That's all, ma'am. Thank you and God bless.